talk about the monastic training, we refer to it as the practice of the Dhamma Vinaya. The Vinaya refers to the code of discipline, the monastic training rules, ways of practice. The Dhamma refers to the truth that we aim to realize through our practice, particularly the Arya Satya Dhamma, the Noble Truths, the Four Noble Truths. The Vinaya is mainly concerned with our speech and our actions. But it's a vehicle that helps us to become more aware of the mind and is directing us towards the end of suffering, helping us to develop qualities, first of all on the outside, but ultimately that develop on the inside as well. Our internal mental behavior is developed greatly through the practice of Vinaya, discipline. As we know, the monk's rules are many. There's the 227 of the Patimokkha discipline, but there's also many more rules outside of the Patimokkha. Many of the monk's rules are what we call minor rules. They're ways of training to make us mindful in daily life. So, obvious things like how we wear our robes, how we collect our alms food and so on, how we eat, how we teach. And then there's rules that help us to abandon unwholesome states of mind, unwholesome intentions, such as giving up lying, false speech, abusive speech. And then there's the gravest rules which are required for a Buddhist monk to follow, such as not killing, not stealing. We keep celibate. If we were to break these rules, we would no longer be a monk. The Luang Por Chah encouraged the monks to treat even the smallest rule as important, not to become lazy or caught into the habit of thinking, well, it's just a minor rule, it doesn't matter. Because the minor rules, when we don't keep them, then that means that it's easier to break the more serious, major rules. One thing leads to another, and much of the Vinaya practice, the Vinaya training that we do, it's repetitive. And we repeatedly learn to follow rules, train ourselves with these rules, whether they're minor or more important, major rules. So if you already give up the intention to keep the minor rules, then that can undermine your effort to keep the main rules. Many of the minor rules of a monk are associated with the monastic environment. They can vary slightly between monastery and monastery. Things such as, say, if you have a group meeting, what time meetings occur. You might have a rule that everyone has to attend a meeting. And then you have the time set for that meeting. So the rule is you have to attend that meeting at that time, arrive together, leave together. There'll be certain ways that a particular monastery sets things up, and the way you clean a building, the way things are done. They might vary from monastery to monastery, but anyone who's training in this discipline and this way of mindfulness, they usually can adapt from monastery to a monastery. And the aim of the monastic discipline is to help us become more mindful, more aware of what we're doing, what we're saying, and why, what intentions and thoughts are coming up in our mind. Luang Por Chah used to say, if you want to check the level of your mindfulness, and when you walk back from the meditation hall to your kuti in the forest, count the number of steps. If you're not mindful enough to be able to keep count between here and your kuti, then you need to keep practicing more. Improve your ability to pay attention, concentrate. Stop thinking about other stuff and just pay attention to your feet and the number of steps it takes. Some kutis can be 15 minutes walk, so that might be over 1,000 steps. Some monks have never counted the steps from the hall to their kuti. They never know. Same with Bindabata. If you go Bindabata, walking to collect food, how many steps do you take when you leave the eating hall? Go out, collect food until you come back to the eating hall. And the Buddha didn't give us the task of counting the number of steps, the number of paces, but he encouraged us to walk with restraint, so restrained eyes, restrained movements, to have general mindfulness, clear comprehension of posture, walking where you're walking to. But counting the number of steps just increases the level of mindfulness by one step, one grade. It can be a very useful way of checking where your mind's at. You might have to walk many times before you can get the number accurate, because your mind just wanders away so quickly. So also the added distractions are you're walking for food, you may be hungry, you meet people who offer you food, you may look at them, talk to them, they talk to you. you're interacting with the world. So again, to keep focused on the number of steps is quite challenging. Same with walking back to your kuti. Maybe along the way you meet a bird or an animal or a snake which distracts you. But the monastic training is aimed at helping us to develop inner mindfulness and clear comprehension every day. Just something like getting up in the morning. If you do have a morning meeting with a certain time that you have to attend that meeting, 4 or 5 a.m., that's a training to be done, isn't it? That's a part of the monastic routine. And you get up in time for a morning meeting, attend it, complete that meeting. The monastic training is helping us, give us a lifestyle where we can practice mindfulness and develop clear comprehension at all times. We don't have to talk a lot, we don't have to get involved with many things. The forest is peaceful, the activities are fairly peaceful and simple. If you really want to train in the 4 foundations of mindfulness from moment to moment, you can do it. As we know, in lay life it's much harder, because the majority of people around are not practicing mindfulness. In the monastery you can rely on other people, they're keeping sila, they're trustworthy, so then you can devote as much attention to the training in the 4 foundations of mindfulness as you want. Even if you have tasks, duties to perform, it's quite straightforward to perform them mindfully, to know whether you're doing something or not, to know where your mind is from moment to moment. Just as the Buddha taught, if you're walking, you know you're walking. If you're sitting, you know you're sitting. If you're eating, you know you're eating. You're training yourself to pay attention. Putting on your robe, washing your bowl, cleaning your kuti, cleaning the meditation hall. These are all activities that you can practice with mindfulness very easily. You can recite a meditation word such as Buddho. You can pay attention to the breathing. You can recite a verse from the suttas or the parittas. There's many things you can do, even when you're doing other activities. Lumpur emphasized in the practice of mindfulness, clear comprehension, not just to benefit each individual, but for the community as a whole. And sometimes people misunderstand and they think, well, if you're just focusing on yourself, practicing mindfulness, doing your own thing, nobody else will benefit, so you're being selfish. If you've been truly mindful, then you're mindful of the monastic training rules. You're mindful of the routine and the way things are done in the monastery. Even if you're not directly interacting with other people, you'll be providing a good example to them. It's when we're not mindful that we tend to harm other people, confuse them, distract them, stir up their emotions, stir up our own emotions, follow our preferences rather than following the Dhamma, the Vinaya. When you practice mindfulness, you become more aware of the internal moods and thought patterns, so then you can train in understanding them on a deeper level. If you've learned to train as a monk, follow the routine, do your practice with mindfulness, then whatever reactions, emotions, trains of thought come up in your mind as you're going about your business, then you have an opportunity to observe that and reflect rather than just getting lost in every new train of thought. The simplicity of the lifestyle can actually be a great strength, because then it facilitates and supports you turning your attention inwards rather than getting lost in the complexity of the world. Always going out and looking for more experiences, more information. As you go about your daily routine, which may be quite repetitive, but you have a real chance to watch and follow up on the changing moods and thoughts, emotions that come and go. You can't help but notice the impermanent nature of things. The aim is to develop this quality of knowing in every posture, standing, walking, sitting, lying down. When you're knowing, you're just observing with mindfulness, rather than getting involved with every thought and every worry, every desire, every reaction. Just knowing. And the stronger and the more continuous the mindfulness, then it becomes obvious that thoughts and moods come and go. Preferences, likes and dislikes, they arise, they pass away, constantly changing. One day you sweep the path and you feel peaceful, the next day you sweep the path and you feel anxious, next day you sweep the path, you feel bored or frustrated, the next day you sweep the path, you feel peaceful again. And sometimes repetitive, simple activities allow you to see the changing moods, and you realize they're just your own mental proliferation generated internally by craving and attachment. If you focus in on your own mind, you'll see more and more how thoughts come and go, how they're generated. Even if mindfulness improves, maybe as a thought is arising, you already catch it. As one thought passes away, you catch the next thought arising. And there's a moment where you can just let it go if you choose to. You can focus on your mind and see the spaciousness of the mind, become more aware of that, and then see no thoughts as they arise into the mind. You keep coming back to your posture, the breath, aspects of the physical body, and we also notice how feelings come and go, changing all the time. Pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. And how feelings will generate reactions, trains of thought. There's many different factors which will affect the state of mind we experience. And you can notice how some days you may experience a painful feeling, but there's something else that's bringing you some pleasure. So that painful feeling doesn't bother you, doesn't lead on to any negative thinking. But another day you may be already thinking negatively, then you have a painful feeling and it causes a trail of negative thoughts, irritation. So through repeated practice you become more aware of the way causes, conditions change your state of mind, and how when you're not very aware, you just grasp them straight away as being you, who you are, fall for them. When you re-establish mindfulness, then there's a detachment, you can let go and just watch. Also, as you practice regularly every day, become practicing mindfulness, clear comprehension, you also become much sharper, clearer in distinguishing between what is a wholesome thought and what is an unwholesome thought. The wholesome thoughts tend to bring a sense of well-being, bring some spiritual pleasure, some joy, some happiness. At the very least, there's just a calmness and a sense of well-being. Unwholesome or unskillful thoughts agitate the mind, make you feel unsettled, discontent. The more you see that, the more you notice that, then your mind will incline towards cultivating the skillful and abandoning the unskillful. And through that's the experience of the practice. It becomes more natural for you to drop unskillful thinking because you know it causes you agitation, stress, suffering. In the beginning of the practice, often we have to think about things a lot, review, reflect on the different decisions we make, the states of mind we experience, have to work things out. Oh, this is skillful, this is unskillful, this makes me feel good, this makes me feel unhappy. But if you keep practicing, cultivating mindfulness in all postures every day, you can develop that much more subtle, intuitive awareness. We just know. If you start thinking a certain way, it won't bring you to happiness or peace. It's dukkha, suffering. So rather than wasting a lot of time with the detail of that kind of train of negative, unskillful thinking, you just drop it quickly. It's like as you go through life, you get to know what things make your clothes dirty, or what things dirty your body, dirty the clothes. So you naturally avoid them, or if you get a large amount of dirt on your clothes, well, you go and wash your clothes. You don't have to think about it. There's not a lot to understand there. You just get to know, and then you act appropriately. So the monastic training is the perfect backdrop for that. There's still different situations you can be in. There's small monasteries, big ones, small communities, large ones. It's more the actual Dhamma Vinaya training. You're training in disciplining your actions, your speech, filtering out the more unskillful behaviour, the unmindful speech and actions, and then bringing the mind to see and know the Dhamma. Which is why Luang Por Chah emphasised the training so much, because it worked for him and worked for so many other practitioners. That he's speaking from a place of experience. So we have a period of practice left. We can carry on meditating till we hear the sound of the bell.